This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by Monk Pack. Monk Pack offers low sugar, keto-friendly bars, which are plant-based, gluten-free, and non-GMO. They're the perfect snack for anyone who's trying to eat better or cut back on sugar and carbs without sacrificing taste. Monk Pack Keto granola bars and nut and seed bars contain 1 gram of sugar or less, 2 to 3 grams of net carbs, and each bar contains 150 calories or less.
Monk Pack bars have an amazing chewy texture and come in delicious flavors like sea salt dark chocolate, coconut cocoa chip, and caramel sea salt. This coconut cocoa chip one is my absolute favorite. It's a great snack. It's easy to eat in between doing the podcast and starting my other job. They're satisfying and they're filling.
Yeah, I love the nut and seed bars. Peanut butter dark chocolate's my favorite, and also sea salt dark chocolate. When I'm editing the podcast, just hanging out watching TV, watching some Netflix, it's a good snack. You don't feel guilty eating them, and they're delicious.
By shopping online, you can avoid another trip to the grocery store and have Monk Pack delivered right to your door. These bars are not just for people eating keto. They're a great snack for anyone looking to reduce their sugar intake while still enjoying delicious, flavorful snacks. They contain real ingredients that are delicious and nutritious for your whole family. And in addition to being keto-friendly, the bars are also gluten-free, plant-based, and non-GMO. There's no sugar, alcohol, soy, or artificial colors.
Get 20% off your first purchase of any Monk Pack product by visiting monkpack.com and entering our code CUPodcast at checkout, or just click the link in the description down below to get 20% off. Monk Pack is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll change the product or refund your money, whichever you prefer. So get some yummy, healthy bars. Go to monkpack.com and use our code CUPodcast to save 20% off, or use the link below. We got voicemails.
We do. You tell them how to get that.
Anchor.fm/the CU podcast. You go, you leave a voicemail, you keep it short, you keep it sweet the way Pat likes it, and then you got a better shot at making the show. And let me just explain what will decrease your chances. Please don't leave multiple voicemails in a row. You get your best idea, and you throw the one best idea you got for that few week period. You throw it out there. Don't hog my time up. Try not to. Here's the first one.
Hey, Pat and Ian. Miles from Portland, Oregon here.
Hey.
Pat, I've been rewatching a lot of old punk episodes,
Why?
and one of my favorite parts is when you're talking about how you're going to have the M82 demo unit set up to play at your funeral and then take it with you to your grave. I was wondering if you've given any thought as to which games you'll have in it at your funeral. I'm really interested to hear your answer, because I feel like that's a very different question from asking what your favorite Nintendo games are. So let me know what you think.
Honestly, it'd be about the same with some variety. It would be like a combination of like ones I probably experienced. I mean, I probably played the M82 demo unit. It came out, 88? So I was like, 8 or 9. So you got to have games from like a few year period with some wiggle, like games from like up to like 90. You got to have a game like Super Dodgeball in there. I think you got to have a game like a DuckTales in there. You need like a Super Mario 2 has got to be in there. I'm looking at what do I actually have in there right now. I got a Rad Racer in there. Nice variety. You only got 12 games to choose from. Games like that. Games that are some are pick up and play. You remember you can't go past the 2-hour mark about. Was it 256 minutes? That's the max there. Maybe you throw a Zelda in there for fun. Just a combination of the hits and some of my personal favorites. I have Super Dodgeball in it right there. I think I might have come with it when I got it, and I never took it out. What are the other guys? I have something in the way. I can't see the other games. My bad.
Hey guys, it's Al from California, and I have 2 questions. So I was a bit too young in the early 2010s to really have been that involved in the whole community. It was basically just the odd episode of Classic Game Room or something. So I kind of wanted to know about some stuff that was around at that point, namely, what was MagFest and what was up with all those sites like Screw Attack and Retroware.
Okay, interesting time. You want to say late 2000s, early 2010s, because retro was not as mainstream as now, because we were all like still in our 20s,
right?
And like mid to late 20s going to early 30s. So we weren't controlling all the decisions and things. So we were the ones still discovering and talking about these games that were largely unknown still. You still people were like putting up the first videos for some of these games probably in like the late 2000s that ever were appearing online. So it was interesting. I went to a few Screw Attack gaming conventions. Not the first one. That's like my first convention I was a guest at in 2010, and my first MagFest was 9 or 10, I believe. So the feeling more about the retro gaming community, and Ian could see if or he can chime in. It felt more insulated because it was kind of cut off from modern gaming more in terms of what was available, and it really was more of a celebration of a much, you want to say, nerdier thing then versus it is now. That's the way it felt, because there was less people I think involved with it overall, and we really were, it felt like, on the front lines of like being the ones that knew the most about these things, because we were the ones that were still trying to prop them up and to like spread the information. That's what it felt like for the first, like I'd say, from like whatever, from the first 5 years, at least 6 years, 2008 of YouTube to like 2013 or so. That's what it felt like to me.
It was also just a different time because social media hadn't really taken over the way it has lately, and become more of the centralizing force. Back then, I think, to Pat's point, one of the reasons why it felt more separated from modern gaming was because the internet was still functioning more as a collection of websites, a bunch of different hubs. Some might have message boards, whatever, but you went to different places to get different news on different topics, as opposed to just loading up Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever and seeing what all of the people who are into what you're into are posting and talking about. And yeah, I just, I actually kind of miss that era of, websites, and the earlier times were fun because there was still people writing articles about developers and things like that we didn't know as much about as we do now. Yeah, I don't know, it was interesting, and I definitely agree that it felt more cut off, whereas now gaming is just kind of gaming.
Yeah, I mean, MagFest was a big party, but like the first MagFest I went to was before I went to the huge Gaylord Hotel. It was still fairly small, the first one that I went to, and then the SGCs were, I felt like I was the old man at the party, old man at the club at the SGCs I went to. Mm-hmm. I was like 29, 30, and the average age of everyone was like 20. I was like the average age probably. There was like kids there where their parents brought them to those conventions, for example. So like that, Screw Attack's a whole other conversation. Maybe one day when I'm feeling ornery, I can talk about my experience with Screw Attack stuff, but for now, we'll let that be.
Hey, Pat, Brent from Whippany, New Jersey.
Sure.
Pat, the podcast name's completely unnecessary. Nothing matters. Just wondering, you okay? If you need to talk. All right. All
right, Brent, I'll reach out. We'll go to the Whippany Diner, and we'll talk. There probably is a Whippany Diner.
Probably.
Probably.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Chris from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Hi, Chris.
I've listened to you guys for a long time.
Right.
It's the first time leaving a message, so I'll jump right into it. Obviously, you're known for your video game love, but you've also shown an aptitude for food. And given that you're such productive entrepreneurs, I'm wondering if there's ever going to be any sort of food-related product that comes out, perhaps a barbecue sauce, or who knows, even we can go all in and do some olive oil. Also, I own a toy and collectibles store here, and I have something that I want to send to Ian. Nothing insidious. He's going to enjoy it, I promise. So how best could we get you some fan stuff? All right, thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Well, I guess you can, if it's mostly Ian stuff, just DM Ian. He can give you an address, or if not,
Yeah, I'd say just find me on Twitter, DM me. Grapeade Fade is my Twitter name, and we can set that up.
We should have done a hot sauce. Everyone does a hot sauce. We should have had a CU podcast hot sauce. Hot sauce.
No offense, but I do a food podcast, and like,
is that cliche?
I do a food podcast, and John and I will eventually do something food related, but I have no idea what it will be. We hot sauce is like what everyone does, so I've kind of like, I don't really.
It's like doing your own your own alcohol. You're not actually like opening your own distillery. You're just slapping a label on something.
Right.
Hey, Pat and Ian. It's Patrick from Elgin, Illinois.
Pat.
My question is for both of you regarding Tiger Electronic handhelds.
Okay.
What were your memories of them, and which ones did you own? Thanks.
I had Double Dragon. I had Ninja Gaiden. I had, it's over there, I had the Talking All-Stars Baseball, which I loved because you played defense on it. The original you didn't. The original 2-button one. This one was more like a traditional baseball game. And That's it. Those are my 3. I had those 3 and I loved them. And then my cousins and everyone else had the other cheap early ones. I remember.
I had a couple that I played a lot. One was the Batman one, the one based on the Michael Keaton movie. Really, really close to the storyline. And then I had a Double Dragon one that I fucking hated.
You know, like Double Dragon? You like Sway?
Sway,
Ian.
Sway. I had it. That one always drove me nuts as a kid. I always made it to the exact same fucking spot in like the 3rd level every time and died, and I just couldn't.
3rd level?
Exactly
Come on, Ian. It wasn't that hard. Get the nunchucks.
And then I had the Simon's Quest one, which was actually pretty cool and like way more in depth than you would expect for it. So I like that. I had a handful of them. I got hand-me-down ones. You'd find them at garage sales after kids played them for 2 weeks and got tired of them. I probably had like 5 or 6.
Rich kid.
Hey, Pat Ian. My name's Jason. I'm calling from Bristol in England. I just wondered what you guys think of now that the eShop and 3DS is running its course. What would you have liked to see kept from the previous system? Maybe passed over to the Nintendo Switch. For example, me, I loved Street Pass. I thought it was amazing on the 3DS. I carried it everywhere with me. Would love to have seen that incorporated on the Switch. And also maybe like a little adapter that you plug into the top of the Switch so you can continue playing your DS games. Just wondered if there was anything you guys would have carried over. Thanks very much. Great podcast. Keep going.
The problem with the adapter idea is Nintendo is not going to be making that much money on that, so they don't want to do that. They'd rather re-release a 3DS game and sell it to you.
Right, exactly.
And then you're not street passing a Switch because the battery life is a lot different on a Switch versus a 3DS. You can just keep that thing closed and it just runs.
The Switch has a way better sleep battery life. The 3DS was notorious for having an awful sleep life, which is
what? Why does it keep that thing on a whole weekend if I went to a convention?
No, you couldn't. That thing drains in a day and a half.
Okay. I remember not having a problem with that. You're saying you got to keep the Switch on idle and carry it around? It would be fine?
Yeah, it would be okay.
Street passing?
Yeah, you would be able to do it. That's what I miss the most. I miss Street Pass. 100% I fucking miss Street Pass. I loved Street Pass.
Okay, so
you could totally do it. It's just because it's big.
Okay, I guess you're saying the screen would have to be off. So obviously, because that would drain power.
Yeah, you just press the power button and it puts it in the sleep mode instead of shutting it off.
All right, I want to see that experiment. I want to see someone do a Street Pass mode on the Switch. I want to see how that would work. I want to see what that would do.
Hey, Pet. Hey, Ian. This is Max calling from Medicine, New Jersey.
Just
curious to know if you guys have any games that eluded you during your time in collecting. Maybe a game that took an incredibly long time to find, or one that was super glorious when you finally did find it. An example for me would be Disney's Hercules on PS1 that finally came into the game store I work at. Thanks, guys.
I have 2. You can go first.
You go, because I'm having a tough time thinking of what mine would be.
Bible Adventures. When I finally found it at a Funkoland, I believe the one in Watchung, New Jersey, at the Blue Star Shopping Center. Everyone's probably people around go, "Oh, Blue Star!" The movie theater there was like a fucking Kmart or whatever, or Target or whatever, Walmart. So I was reading about that stuff in like TSR's NES archive, discovering that, and then I went in there one day and I was like, "Holy shit! There's the baby blue." I was like, I fucking freaked out that it was there. Because he'd never heard of the damn game growing up, and somehow there's one at the Funkoland. It was probably only like $5 or $6. Who the hell wanted that? The second one was the one I wanted to play forever because I'd rented it when I was a kid. It was Best of the Best. And then it's not like a super hard to find game, but it's uncommon. And they never had it. I mean, at the Funkoland, they never had it. I looked for like over a year. It never came in. And finally, one day I found it at one. It was probably like like 99, probably what was 99, 2000. I don't know why I didn't get it on eBay. Maybe it was before it was eBay. It might have been I was only like 18. I might have been only 18 or 17. I got it on eBay, I think when I was 18. So it might have been before that, to be honest. But I wanted that game so badly. Those are my 2.
I can't really think of. That's tough for me to think of a game because it's hard for me to remember back to like the I can just go online and buy it era, right?
Sure.
So I don't fucking know, man.
I mean, something can still elude you online, I guess. Like, it took me forever to get the Panesian games, like
yeah. I guess I just haven't felt like I still collect stuff, but I haven't been like hungry for a specific title
Sure.
that eluded me for a long time. I can't think of the last time that I was emotional, over finding a game or anything like that. I don't. I can say that I did find a record the other day, a couple months ago. It's an Edgar Froese album, one of the guys from Tangerine Dream, and I had been hunting for that for like 3 years, and it was just you walk into the fucking record store and you start flipping, and boom, there it is. And then I also happened to be looking for the Thief soundtrack, and it was like the record behind it. So I do have moments like that when I'm record shopping. I also do a lot less record buying online. So I do keep a lot of like the things I want to find for records. I can still go out and find them. Whereas video games, with video games, I definitely started ordering more stuff instead of waiting to find it out in the wild.
I guess I had more of that experience with manuals. Like
Sure.
I did buy manuals online, but one of the most joys I had going to conventions was flipping through hundreds of manuals at conventions and picking out the ones I didn't have. That was like, to me, like I want to say a rush. That's what I enjoyed doing.
Sure.
Because you were physically going through them, and like, yeah, I could have bought them online, but there were some conventions I'd buy 10, 20, 30, 40 back before I started compiling hundreds of them. And that was, to me, like, it was fun. Plus they were like a 50 cents or a dollar each. There was a PRGE, the one that always has the setup with like the store setup up front.
Right.
I forget. I always forget the name of it. But there was one time they were like 50 cents each, and I bought 300 of the fucking things, and I didn't even care if I needed them or not. I was like, oh, this is so cheap, I'm just going to buy like a majority of these ones. And then just, sell them later, the ones I didn't have. And yes, most of them I didn't have, but that's what it was. Before I had a list. Next.
Hey, Pat and Ian. Listen, guys, I've been listening to this podcast for the past 100 or so episodes. Last week's episode, where you talked about your job experience, Pat, is by far the most amusing I've heard, because it so reminds me of what I went through working. I was in customer service, and yeah, I can completely relate to basically anything you said. So keep up the good work and keep throwing those weird stories in there, okay?
Okay. I'll try. I'll try. I've gone through most of them. I've gone through most of the Suncoast stories, most of the market research job. Not the first market research job. There's still bad stuff, but it's not as interesting. And then when I worked at the library in college, that was actually pretty cool working at the library. That was actually fun. Supermarket was hell, but that's like, come on, that's an entry-level job. They're always going to be like that. So, it is what it is. They abuse you at those jobs. They have you do everything. They have you doing stuff that you would have been doing, 25 years later for $5 an hour.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Nick from Richmond, Virginia. Hey, Ian, I got a question for you. I just started playing Center and Kagura Peach Ball for the Switch. Super fun game. I love the wackiness of it all. It's super cool. What are your thoughts on the Center and Kagura kind of games, the cute, kind of sexy stuff? And also, what other good pinball games are there that aren't like straight pinball, but more kind of just like fun, crazy pinball? I know Demon's Till is one, but what are some other suggestions you have? Thanks.
So I mean, I've said it before on the podcast. I like the Senran and Kagura games. I don't talk about them a lot. I mean, it's just cheesecake. It's just boobs and beat 'em ups, or boobs and third person shooters, or boobs and pinball. But yeah, they're fun for what they are. As far as other games that are pinball adjacent, I definitely would say Yoku's Island Adventure is one that I believe is on the Switch that I had some fun with. But I think my favorite one that's just not a replication of another machine is definitely Demon's Tilt. I would, I implore everyone to please play Demon's Tilt. It's a fantastic game.
I will at some point. A few more.
Hey, Pat. In like 92, 93, I got a Sega CD for Christmas, and I loved digital pictures games. But on top of that, I actually enjoyed Sewer Shark.
Oh.
But with that being said, there was a certain game that I truly loved called Dracula Unleashed. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but good God, it was so cheesy, it was great.
Well, too bad that's
Take
not
care, brother.
included. That's not included on the Mini 2.
Yeah, I've never played that one.
You ever come across that one? Let me see.
Yes, I've seen it at work before, and people have been excited to find it. So I'm sure it's got some sort of cult following.
I'm sure all those goofy FMV games, I'm guessing.
Hey, Pat and Ian. This is John from Los Angeles.
Hey, John.
I was wondering what both of your thoughts are on a video game series very near and dear to my heart, Castlevania. It gets mentioned fairly frequently in passing on the podcast, but I would love to hear about your favorite entries and any personal memories or opinions of Castlevania you may have. I hated the series as a kid because I thought the games were too hard, but I'm loving playing through the anniversary collections as an adult. Thanks for the podcast.
What a professional read that was on that question. 23 seconds in and out. That was great. Well prepared. Great audio quality. Are you a podcaster yourself, John? Anyway, personal opinions. I mean, I like the series for what it is. It's a goofy little monster whipping series. It's nice. It has nice fundamental gameplay. I mean, I like that. It's one of the earlier examples of using, having sub weapons. So that's pretty cool. That have different, pros and cons to each one. So that makes it interesting, and it's hard as balls.
Yeah, I mean, I like the first one. I like how the first one is just kind of like a who's who of classic movie monsters. That you go through, and it's it's a little bit campier. I always liked how they put like the film grain, like the film reel stuff on the side to make it seem like an old spooky movie.
Sure.
During the intro,
amazing soundtrack. On those
what's
games.
up?
Amazing soundtrack, obviously.
Yeah, great soundtrack. My favorite entries in the series are probably Rondo and Bloodlines. But I like Symphony of the Night a lot as well. I think Symphony of the Night and Rondo are fun to play back to back because that's because those are both Dracula X games. So it's kind of like the clear jumping point from the traditional style of the game to the new, quote unquote Metroidvania style of the game. So I think those are always fun to play together.
Okay, do a couple more here. What's that for?
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Jeff from Loxahatchee.
Hey,
Since
Jeff.
you two are both animal lovers, I wanted to know which lesser-known animal do you want more people to know about? Mine is the great Poteau. It's an adorable-looking bird with big eyes and mouth. Thanks.
Oh, Okapi. I love the. Who doesn't love the Okapi?
Okapi is a good one.
Capybara.
I really love I'm a huge fan of the Tasmanian Devils, and I feel like they've gotten a little bit more popular lately. But I would love people to learn more about Tasmanian Devils.
All those little in those regions, New Zealand, Australia, all the marsupials don't get enough love.
However, I think, and unfortunately it's not there anymore. I don't know if he died or what, but the battle lure eagle is one of my favorite birds. There used to be one at the San Diego Zoo. I always referred to it as the sun's out, guns out birds because it would stand on its branch with its wings spread real wide.
It's black.
And it would just stay there the whole time. Just a beautiful, gorgeous bird. And I'd never seen one anywhere before. And sadly, it's no longer in its enclosure.
Let's see. Where is it? It's from Africa, and it is threatened. Like most animals seem to be now. And most animals at the zoo are at least threatened. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's where we're at with those. So support your local zoo. Help for conservation efforts, or give money to the World Wildlife Fund, which I do from time to time. We need that.
Hey Pat and Ian, it's John from Ireland.
Hey
Pat, on high stakes poker, who are your two best players ever, and who are your two that you want to have a beer with the most? For me, the best two are Tom Dwan and Phil Ivey. Beer with Antonio Esfandiari and Elliot Ezra. Both of them just seem like legends to me, like nice guys. And Ian, thanks for liking my Predator poster tweet. I love that thing. Cheers.
You got to hang out with Sammy. How could you not want to have a beer and hang out? Sammy is a cool cat character. You would probably recognize him if you saw him. Sammy was the one that got to the finals against Moneymaker back in 2003. Looks like a sleazy-ish, sort of player, but heart of gold probably. Who I want to play with? That's God. I guess someone I want to hopefully defeat. Tom Dwan was known as one of the better players back then. Kind of off his rocker, would go for insane bluffs that, looking back, because people didn't know how nuts he was, he should have been called on more of his bluffs. Phil Ivey was regarded as one of the smartest, most well-rounded, fundamental players that no one wanted to face, and I believe he still is regarded like that. But in poker, it's almost like technology is that you always have to keep up with the strategy and the theory. It's 10 years ago was totally different than now. But yeah, I'd like to play professional poker at some point. That's a dream of mine. Okay, we're gonna check in with someone we haven't heard from in a bit.
It's me, Andrew from Ukraine. Recently, I went to eastern Ukraine to visit my friend who is serving on the front line. It was a trip through all country on a train, bunk bed, 26 hours. Pretty boring. What games would you recommend for such long trips, besides Pokemon or Virtual Boy? Technically, it's portable. Anyway, thank you. Bye.
Glad to hear you're doing well, Andrew.
Yeah,
keep up the good work
you.
to you and your comrades there.
I think that's a really good time to maybe take a fighter, practice some combos and stuff. You can lab it out on like a Switch, playing a fighting game. RPGs always seem to be like the easy answer. Obviously, Pokemon's a big one, but I like first-person dungeon crawlers, and then I really like pick up and play stuff if I'm going to be traveling. Because I have a tough time focusing, I like to take a bunch of I love having like a bunch of like little arcade type games on a console. So shooters, action platformers, that sort of thing. Single screen maze games, whatever.
I like the strategy games because they eat up so much more time than you realize.
Sure.
I mean, I used to play on the DS. The cut down version, what was it? Civilization.
Civ Revolutions. That
Yeah.
game was great.
It was
a good way to cut down that game.
They cut out the roads. Who needs to build individual roads? Who the fuck cares? Like that was a good and they trimmed a lot of other little things here and there. So it was a nice compact version of the game. And you could play a game in like a couple hours. You can get through a game, like if you wanted to. So it was like the perfect way to do it. Perfect bite size for travel. But or you take your time, you can go long in 2 hours, but you could if you wanted to. So the reason I like those sort of games later, because I don't usually get motion sickness on planes, but I have, depending on how much turbulence. So a game like that, you don't have to be constantly focused on. You can take your time choosing what you're doing, upgrading
that's a
your
good
city.
call.
So then you can put it down and relax versus a twitchy game where you got to be like super focused on. So I have played twitchy games before on a plane or traveling. I wish I could travel on trains more. Our country's not built for that, unfortunately. Most other ones are in Europe. But yeah, that's what I say. I say a more slower paced game in general. You can take your time and relax and go back and forth with. But no, a mini collection of games is fun. I've done like the Sudoku ones where remember some of the planes still have it where they had the built-in games on the screen, but less do than they used to. But some still do.
Sure.
And those would be fun. There would be like little platformers on there, or little puzzle games, and that stuff's pretty cool. Well, good to hear from you, Andrew.
Yeah,
we're not getting the news daily out of the Ukraine. We still should, because obviously it's a super serious situation. But it's like anything else. I guess people get fatigued hearing about it, but it's like it's still a war going on.
Right.
It's not ending anytime soon.